Swear I won't forget this. Why do I regret this? In my mind,
Alright, I'm live.
And so am I, Castle Rexworth, and from the domain of Zoe the Demon Fox, we bid you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you are. My name is Rexworth, Lord Rexworth, and joined next to me, while some say her tail is so floofy it can hide an entire artist's pen and pencil set. And if she were the CEO of a publicly traded company in Japan, she wouldn't call a $152 million loss a negligible impact. All we know is she's Zoe the Demon Fox. Zoe, how are you?
I need to start writing shit like
that. Oh my god, the roast, yes. Following a page from Jezza there. But yeah, Zoe, how are you, dear? How are you?
I'm doing good. I had chicken fries today.
You had French fries?
Chicken fries.
Oh, chicken fries, okay.
They're even better than French fries.
Chips where I'm from. Sink the yacht, yeah, exactly, yeah. Spectre, welcome in. Hey Rex, how are you, pal? Doing well, doing well. Great to be here, doing the thing that brings me joy. Glad to bring all of you another episode in our journey through The Realm, A Tale of Blood and Souls, which is a book that Zoe has written herself. This, I believe, is the second edition. Done some revisions on this one. We're going to be picking up at around chapter 37. We are approximately 2/3 of the way through this book, so I think we're going to see some tremendous progress tonight, and then perhaps, and maybe, fingers crossed, don't want to jinx it, next week we have the finale. So, if you haven't been watching, do go back and take a look at all the VODs that we've had from previous weeks. They're available on both my Twitch page, Zoe's, and also on my YouTube page, which
and my
is
YouTube as well.
Oh yes, and also Zoe's got a YouTube page as well. So yeah, all those links are available on our pages. Zoe, of course, is tagged on the stream title on my side. I believe it's vice versa for her. So do give us both follows if you haven't already. And it's this has been a multi-week project that we've been working on, and having a lot of fun doing this. And I always enjoy these live readings of ours, and it's nice to have some consistent content week after week after week. And it's been this slow boil where things really have started to pick up, and it's getting very interesting. All of the intrigue, all of the betrayal, all of just the drama of it all. I say it's better than an episode of Game of Thrones, but that's just me. Then again, I never was much of a fan of Game
Funnily
of
enough,
Thrones.
while I was writing this book, I was also watching Game of Thrones at the same time. Salem was kind of based off of a character.
Everybody's got to draw some inspiration from somewhere. But yeah, you've done incredibly well, Zoe, and this has been really interesting and a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to tonight. I hope everybody else is as well. Let's see, let me catch up here on chat. Enrique, welcome in. I raise my glass to the incomparable Lord Rex, whose streams have brought joy, laughter, and countless unforgettable moments to our lives. With each click of his mouse and every word spoken, he's transported us to realms of adventure and camaraderie. To Lord Rex, whose passion and dedication light up the virtual world, we salute you. Your charisma, wit, and boundless energy have endeared you to us all, making every stream an experience to cherish. May your streams continue to inspire, entertain, and unite us as we eagerly await the next chapter of your epic adventures. Here's to you, Lord Rex, the embodiment of streaming excellence in the heart of the community. Thank you, Enrique. That's so kind of you.
Aww.
That's a long one. Not gonna lie. Yeah, that took you to. That's two right there. That's two posts right there. But that's all right. That's good. That's good. We made a bit of a roast there in the beginning, but I do want to let everybody know I have pinned to my chat the link to Dirky Bird's premiere or re-debut stream over on YouTube. You will not offend me in the least. I know that's going to be the hot ticket for tonight in terms of viewership. You'll not offend me in the least if you want to keep Doki up in a second tab next to mine and next to Zoe's, or a third tab, as it were. So yeah, no offense taken there, and it's an honor to be in the tab right next door. So there you have it. But with that, is there anything, Zoe, you wanted to plug before we get started?
Just my card, like always, which I pinned in my chat, because it has all my links, Tumblr, YouTube, Twitch,
Fantastic.
other things that I don't remember right off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Everything you need is there.
Which is a sort of a repository of all of our links, and it's like, oh wait, I still have that. I think I had an old Trovo link that's no longer active. I no longer put any content up on it.
I don't use my Tumblr, but it's on there.
Yeah. Yeah, and mine is very simply lordrexworth.com. That is lordrexworth.com. All of the links are available there, from the Twitter to the Discord to the Throne page to the Twitch and the YouTube and the Kick page, everything.
Hi, Kagane.
I've got my throat coat tea here at the ready, so I have come prepared tonight.
I've got my mango vodka in my slightly red tinted bottle because I've been drinking Kool-Aid out of this all day.
There's a running joke between me and a few friends that we are to refrain from the consumption of vodka lest we prove a certain scientific study about sexual vitality and vodka prove it accurate. So
welcome me, you will not be stopping me this day.
What's happening, 007? Don, welcome in. Good to see you. Now, this week I'm actually going to remember. Just did it now. I'm tapping the record button over on Rode Unify, so we will have a recording of this that's audio only. Totally forgot to do that last weekend. So yeah, we'll have at least the rough beginnings of an audiobook for this, for Zoe's use. Right. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and move into our readings. I mean, we could always test it in the future with consent, of course. Consent is sexy, indeed it is, and I could never really resist a good martini. Right, chapter 37. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Zoe sat on the obsidian throne within her castle Darkstone, looking around the empty throne room. She clenched her fist angrily and stood up, manifesting both of her swords and lobbing them violently across the room. Misery's End clattered across the dark marble floor, but Hellbringer impaled itself into the carpet. The fox demon sat back down and pouted.
How dare they defy their god? Protecting that stupid bit.
She drifted off suddenly, then clenched her fists.
Start prick.
She stopped herself again. Her breathing grew heavier.
That.
She felt something wet on her cheek and went to wipe it away, eyes widening as she realized she was crying. She shook her head violently.
She's nothing to me.
Zoe stood up and started stomping over to pick her swords up, but as she bent over, a necklace fell out from underneath her shirt and cloak.
You're my saints, and saints last forever.
Zoe stood up slightly and gripped the amulet, looking at it. The amulet that Styx had made for her, a gift from a lowly watcher to the almighty queen, and yet it was Zoe that had fallen in love first.
You're about 10 feet off target, Koss. Styx is over there.
That one me?
Yes.
Yeah. I know exactly who I swung at. She could still hear the disappointment in his voice. Out of all of Gereni, Kos had been her favorite. She had been chosen as their bloody god after she'd lost her memories. While they worshipped her, they also saw her as a friend, a raiding partner, a member of their clans. A great many of them she drank with at inns and knew their names. And Kos, a champion.
Salem is right. You aren't fit to rule hell.
Zoe clenched her fist. Hell had thrived under her rule. No. Hell was self-sufficient. While she maintained a few things and was the highest authority, she tended to be too busy entertaining herself and hurting other people. Hurting her friends and loved ones.
No wonder Asbestos hates me. I don't even want to rule.
Zoe blew air quietly between her lips. She understood now. Styx did not want to rule over Hell. She wanted to sit on the throne as queen in Zoe's place and protect her from those that hated her. With Salem standing behind her, more than likely Styx would be more of a puppet than anything. But if all that short bastard wanted was a puppet, he wouldn't have betrayed the Dark Saints to accomplish that goal. Zoe clenched her fists.
That's Argos.
Can't a man be by his sister's side as she leaves this world for the next without the city plunging into chaos? You're twice as vile and insane than you were before. Zoe's body shook with silent heaves as salty tears fell onto the carpet beneath her.
Regaining my memories is a mistake. As soon as I realized who I was, I should have made peace with that and left Misery's end to be taken by someone else.
She grasped at Amulet.
I could have.
She paused, looking up at the closed dark wood doors to her throne room.
I could have helped Styx.
Zoe ripped the amulet from her neck and carefully slipped it into her pocket, turning back towards her throne.
I think I've got a lot of letters to write. A lot of L's.
Salem stepped back through the rift he'd tossed Soul Blight through and looked down at Evelyn, who was sitting against a rain-soaked tree holding a stab wound closed on her stomach. Are you all right? The Fallen gave a shaky thumbs up.
I'll live. Just give me a second to regenerate.
Salem narrowed his eyes. Tell me something, Evelyn. You couldn't open a rift earlier. Why is that? She laughed nervously and looked away, pushing herself against the tree a bit more.
You know how it is, Salem. Warpstone addles to the brain. And with all the wind, rain, and winds, and especially Argos, I just couldn't think of any runes to speak.
Salem walked over and went to a knee beside her. Couldn't remember? Or perhaps your unique situation as the only Fallen with corruption as an aspect means, without your Warpstone, you grow weaker. Evelyn looked away sadly as Salem stood up again. You stopped crushing Warpstone. Pox's handle calcified and shattered from one of Argus's blows. You can't remember demonic runes, your aspect weakens, and it wouldn't surprise me if warp rot wasn't far off, despite your body's resistance to it.
To do it for Styx. Warpstone almost destroyed our friendship. Without it, I would have never fooled around with Zoe.
Salem sighed. Oh, what's past is past, Evelyn. Besides, did she not learn the truth of the matter, Mirka? Evelyn shyly nodded, still looking away. And yet, I can see it when she looks at you, Evelyn. Out of all of us, it is you she relies on most of all. Phobos is a bodyguard, I am an advisor, but what are you? Evelyn hesitated. Salem interrupted her. You are her friend. You've known each other ever since Nox enlisted the two of you to help the rest of us overthrow Zoe. You traveled the River of Souls innumerable times together. You looked for Mirka together, despite her relations with the Fox. You were the first she ever opened up to. She let you into her cabin. She cares deeply for you, Evelyn. There was silence for a moment before Evelyn looked up at Salem and smiled slightly.
You changed, Salem. You used to be so ready to abandon your schemes when they went wrong and blame them on Erebus. But you stuck with this. Forgive me if you've mentioned it before, I'm an addict after all, but what benefit is there to putting Styx on the throne?
She smiled sheepishly. Salem sighed. After what felt like an eternity, he spoke. An end. Ever since the ancient war, there have been schemes, plots, and more schemes, some of them formulated by myself. Yet after the war ended, I decided that perhaps it had all gone on long enough. Our realms thrived before the ancient war, and I think perhaps we should try to return to such times. If history repeats itself from lessons unlearned, then perhaps it can also repeat from the lessons we have learned. Wouldn't you agree, Evelyn? The Fallen started to grin.
Yeah, I do.
She pulled a warpstone from her pouch and crushed it, before standing up and brushing herself off.
And beyond that, I kinda do actually want to see Styx on the Obsidian Throne.
If you're lucky, perhaps we could... If you're lucky, perhaps you could both be queen. Together. Evelyn blushed fiercely.
What in the nine hells are you implying, Salem?
He chuckled. Oh, nothing. He crossed his arms. It'll be a long road, Saint of Corruption. Nox and Petra still live, the two largest threats to Styx's rule. I fear there may be one last war to be fought before all is said and done. Evelyn's wound healed nearly instantly as she crushed a second warpstone, summoning Pox to her hand.
It's a long road, but we'll walk it together. All of us.
Salem felt himself smile unwillingly. Come, Evelyn, let us assist our queen, whatever she may be. Salem turned away. Jan. Evelyn grabbed his shoulder, words she could not remember returning to her as naturally as riding a bike.
I got it. Janhalda.
A rift tore open in front of them, and they stepped through it. Chapter 38. In the Name of the Queen. Is this one mine?
If you want it.
Oh. Wait! Soulblight cleaved a soldier in two. I yield! The scythe ripped an electric shield out of the way, and as the Fedite soldier was pulled forward, Styx grabbed his arm and claimed his soul, knocking him aside as she continued forward through the wooden and snowy paths of Iron Keep. She stopped, as a Fedite with a rifle grinned sadistically, but as he pulled the trigger, Phobos leapt over and landed in front of her, the bullet deflecting off his metal head. Phobos let out an asthmatic cackle, and while the Fedite frantically tried to bolt a new bullet, a metal claw clasped round his head, raised him into the air, and slammed him face down into the ground. Styx gave a thumbs up to her bodyguard, but jolted as she felt a hand grasp her shoulder. She quickly spun round, but stopped her reflexive side swing as she saw who it was. A Gedonite in full greyish armor, a fur mantle, and a spiky crown forged to be part of his helmet. He was about a foot shorter than Kos, but still taller than Styx. The Northman took his helmet off, revealing a short, yet bushy blonde beard and thick eyebrows over blue eyes. He grinned. You must be the Soul Queen I heard about. I'm happy to have your assistance. Styx nodded slightly.
My name is Styx.
She hesitated.
I'm sorry about Zoe.
Her shoulder was grasped again, a bit more gentle than the first time. I'm Olaf Bjornsson, immortal king of Gedani. He offered a reassuring smile. You have no reason to apologize to me, Styx. We slaughtered in the Blood Saint's name for so long. Our god died when she regained her memories. We will sing hymns and tell tales of the blood saint, however. Of the one we knew. He let out a hearty laugh. But come now, Styx. Queen of souls, Ironkeep is still under siege. Follow me! Olaf put his helmet back on and slipped past her and Phobos. Styx hesitated, then followed after him. Olaf led them into a large plaza where many Geronites were taking a moment to rest before the final charge down to the docks. An orb of fire sailed over them, likely from the catapult Styx had heard about earlier. In the center of the plaza was a shattered fountain with red stains on it. A blood fountain, she supposed. Olaf clambered atop it and raised his large sword above his head with one hand. Geronites, heed me and heed me well. We all hail from different clans. The Shadow Keepers, the Blooded Fist, the Ice Children, and many more. But in our souls, we are all Frostborn. These fools from the north seek to destroy Ironkeep. Ha, I say! They may hail from the north, but we are the true Northmen! He pulled a one-handed runic axe from his belt, raising that up next to his sword. We are the Frostborn, the harbingers of blood. These Fedites will not be learning from this mistake, for we shall kill them for their foolish attempt to take our land. We offer their blood to our fallen god, and their souls to the Soul Queen. Come, Geronites! The Kilion await a feast, and many souls ripe for the reaping. If the snow is not turned dark red from blood, then can we call ourselves Geronites? A loud battle cry arose, echoing throughout Ironkeep, where it was picked up by every Northman that heard it. I can't hear you, and I don't think they can either. The cry rose louder. Come, Frostborn! Let us drive these invaders from Ironkeep! Charge! Styx started laughing. Geronites were insane, yet at the same time, very inspiring. She raised Soulblight skyward and joined the battle cry, charging down to the docks in unison with a savage Northman.
Are you okay after that?
Give me a moment.
That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I'm alright. I'm good. We're good. Everything's fine. It's fine.
Did you get a little too into it about to weave the stream?
Hello, Lord Rex. Seems I dropped in at the right time. Hello, Action. Welcome. Welcome in. I do believe Jen and the rest of our UK and EU listeners are not going to be going to sleep anytime soon after that.
God, my Gearnite speeches are some of my favorite writing.
Yes. Oh, God. Hope I didn't blow up my microphone.
You didn't cut out until you said charge.
Oh. That's alright, it'll probably be on the audio version. Anyways, let's continue. Ria stood on a rooftop near the docks, scanning across the wooden piers, searching for someone. She gasped and turned as an angel landed behind her, mechanical wing ticking idly. Morgan sighed, gripping twisted twilight.
Man, your hair blends into the snow so well.
Morgan sighed and brushed her dark hair out of her eyes.
What are you looking for?
Rias turned back to their search.
Their commander.
Morgan walked closer and hesitated.
Kalka and I came here to rescue you, but I get the impression that until you help the Geronites, you aren't going to come willingly.
Morgan smiled and let her blade demanifest, grasping Rias under the shoulders, ignoring the little demon's gasp, and flapping her wings.
So, I'm going to help you out. Tell me what you see when you see what you're looking for.
The main force of the Geronites had gotten trapped in choke points held back by gunfire and dazzling weaponry fielded by the Fedites, Tesla swords, steam-powered fists, arcane shields, and much more. At Olaf's suggestion, Styx and Phobos had clambered over the rooftops and leapt down onto a side path to flank from. As they stepped out from an alley and onto the coastline, Styx saw a rather fat yet armored man standing on the docks, seeming to be in a commanding capacity. Styx's eyes also widened as she saw a 7-foot-tall man with a pole axe next to him. What was Korath doing here? Styx hesitated. Korath's power would be useful on her side.
Phobos, get me to him.
It hadn't taken too long for Salem and Evelyn to find the general area that Styx was in. They stood on a rooftop, watching the battle for the docks rage.
So these are the Ferrites, huh? Got some cool weapons.
There are more important things to worry about. I feel Styx is nearby, but I don't see her. Evelyn pointed.
There, I see her.
It was hard to process what happened in one take. Rather quickly, Rios plummeted from the sky and landed on the commander's back, plunging her sword into his neck. At the same time, the Gedonites had broken through the blockade, led by Olaf and Kos, while at the same time, Phobos had created an opening on the flank that Styx had dashed through, arm outstretched, as she sprinted towards the man next to the dying commander. As Styx reached Korath, he suddenly wasn't there. Her eyes widened as she stumbled forward. Olaf yelled a victorious cry, his axe joining Rios' sword in puncturing the commander's body, when they were all pushed over by Styx bellowing into them. Styx was the first to stand back up, leaning on Soul Blight and holding her head.
Ow.
For the first time in hours, her eyes had reverted to their grey color. She looked round, noting the Ferrites in a mass retreat, shoving their rowboats into the water as fast as possible. Some even braving the frigid waters to simply swim back to their ships. The catapults had ceased throwing their deadly payloads and were turning round in preparation to leave. The rear guard was slaughtered to a man. Rhea stood up next, ice melting off her sword blade as she sheathed it silently. Finally, Olaf got to his feet, laughing heartily. Were we all trying to kill the exact same person? He turned to the rest of his men. Come, lads, prepare the longboats. We'll chase them away and give them reason not to return. The Gedonites on the docks raised their axes and swords in chaotic affirmation and began running forward, pushing longboats into the water and boarding them. Styx jolted as Kos walked up and gripped her shoulder. He took off his helmet, showing surprisingly kind eyes on his gruff, black-bearded face. Your help today was appreciated, Queen of Souls. There was clapping from the empty command ship moored at the dock behind them. Styx quickly turned around as Kos and Olaf went for their axes. Standing above them, on one of the mast parts, was the one and only Cagliostro. Bravo, bravo. I had somewhat hoped you would die, Queen of Souls. Yet I also expected you to die, way back when Zoe stabbed you. Perhaps I should place my bets more carefully. Kos snarled. What do you want, Mast One? Oh, right. Frosine Heli. A rift opened between Olaf's feet, and he looked down, gasping. Styx and Kos lunged to grab him, but he fell too quickly. The runes on Kos's axe glowed brightly. I'm going to rip your head off and feed it to my dire wolves. Cagliostro chuckled and casually hopped down, landing at the edge of the pier without any sort of crouch, as if the fall was nothing to his legs. He slipped his hands into his pockets. Apologies, but I need him. You may have him back later on. If he survives. The listener chuckled. You bastard! Kos swung, but his axe never connected as it collided with the handle of Korath's poleaxe. Kos fell-handed. I'd recommend you simply step back. Cagliostro turned to Rios, tilting his head to the side slightly. The Sword Saint. Your sister's dying. Did anyone ever inform you of that troubling news? Rios's eyes widened, but she didn't speak. Finally, Cagliostro turned to Styx. It seems you have replaced the Hell Queen as the patron of Gedony. Congratulations. There was a bit of a scuffle as Korath and Kos backed away from each other. You know, Queen of Souls, originally I was planning on helping your rise behind the scenes, but he clapped his hands together once, a black rift opening behind Korath, who backed up through it. The ultimate problem has taken care of itself. Cagliostro's voice became very sinister and smug. Careful on your way home, Styx. I hear that sometimes those souls of yours could get quite irritable. They quickly vanished through the rift. Styx grasped Soulblight tightly.
What the fuck was that about?
Kos impaled his axe into one of the pier's support pillars and snarled, "It took the king! Bastard!" Styx hesitated and turned to Kos.
What'll happen without him?
Kos chuckled and shook his head, standing up straight again. None of the Gedonites seemed to have noticed what happened, too focused on boarding their longboats and chasing the Fedites. Nothing will happen, Soul Queen. Without Olaf, I'll lead the clans. Someone has to keep them united. Salem manifested out of the shadows and patted Styx's arm. Come, my queen, Calico will see to Rios. We must return to Darkstone. Styx hesitated for a moment. Go, Queen of Souls. Your presence was appreciated, and iron keeps time of need. It will not be forgotten. Styx bowed slightly.
You're welcome.
Vaten Celia. Styx and Salem stepped through the rift. Kos turned to Rios and patted her on the head as Calico and Morgan landed nearby. It's been a pleasure for all of us to be a family for you, little demon. The clan chiefs will miss you, but they'll understand. Rios hesitated.
Were it not for my sister,
Family's everything, Sword Saint, and for us Gedonites, our clans are our families. I understand completely. Go! Rios nodded and turned, running over the two fallen. Kos chuckled as he watched a rift open and the three of them disappear. The armored warrior turned towards the burning city of Iron Keep. There's much work to do to restore this place. I'll have it cleaned up for your return, King Olaf.
and here's where we dial things up to 11.
I love it. Chapter 39. Soul Bomb. The rift had taken Styx and a small group to a random point on the River of Souls. It took only a moment for Styx to summon her ferry and get them sailing upriver, back towards Hell's Gate. One of Alana's shadowy spiders spoke to Salem as he stood near the front of the boat. Phobos had taken his original perch as before, and Evelyn sat down next to Styx and the steering oar. Styx sighed softly, snapping out of her thoughts as Salem spoke to her. "My queen, are you all right?" She shrugged and smiled sheepishly.
I'm fine. It's just been a long day, you know?
It has indeed.
For all of us.
Evelyn clasped her hands behind her head and leaned back a bit, staring at the cavernous ceiling of hell far above.
I'm exhausted.
The ferry lurched suddenly and Styx peered over the side, looking for the souls that had bumped into her boat.
Oi!
Her voice caught in her throat as she realized none of the souls had messed with her. Careful on your way home, Queen of Souls. Styx gripped the steering oar tighter.
Oh no.
Unlockable Kun, welcome in. Hey yo, it's Downton Abbey. What's good, my friend? Damn that voice. Welcome in. Thank you so much. It's the weirdest Bible verse. we are reading a book by Zoe the Demon Fox. If you're just joining us, it's called The Realm: A Tale of Blood and Souls.
No, Cassie, there not be a Saint of Baja Blast.
That'd be cool, though.
If I ever write my spin-off, I'll add a Saint of Baja Blast.
Let's see. Evelyn stood up.
What's wrong, Styx?
The ferry suddenly lurched again and ran aground on the bank. They were in the magma plains with a flat, rocky field, followed by an unscalable cliff. Only a few more minutes of sailing would have gotten them to Blackport. Salem also seemed to realize the problem. My queen, disembark. We'll run the rest of the way quickly. Styx nodded quickly, she and Evelyn grabbing their respective weapons before hopping off the ferry and running along the bank. Salem paused. Phobos, I fear my time guarding the queen is quickly coming to an end. I'm relying on you to protect her. Phobos's core rattled around in its cage. Come on. They both hopped out, running to catch up, until there was a sonic boom. Ash and dust kicked up from an impact, and Argos stepped out of the crater that had formed, brushing dirt off his armor and unsheathing two of his swords with a sneer. Ready for round 2? Styx skidded to a stop and looked back.
Oh shit. Keep going, Styx.
Evelyn grabbed her shoulder and tried to pull her along until a black rift opened in front of them and Cagliostro stepped out, blocking their path. He closed the book he was holding and chuckled. Evelyn pushed Styx behind her and brandished Pox.
How did you get Argos into hell, you bastard?
Cagliostro chuckled again. Quite simple, really. I wrote 10 codexes for the sake of knowledge. I only need one to pull off a simple trick such as locating the Saint of Blades and bringing him to me. Salem hesitated, watching everything unfold before manifesting the maddening blade. Phobos, protect your queen! Phobos began to melt into shadow, pulling Salem down into the puddle as well, and spitting them both out by Evelyn and Styx, where the Saint of Fear pushed Salem behind him, acting as a barrier against Cagliostro and Argos. Styx and Evelyn gasped as they heard impacts behind them. Two shadowy clouds slamming into the ground, and stepping out of them were Mortis and Nox. A purple orb manifested next to them, growing to a human size before collapsing in on itself into Erebus's hand.
I must say, Salem, your first mistake was returning to Hill altogether. Did you think you would be safe?
Salem scoffed. Wipe that smug smile off your face, Erebus. We both know this wasn't your idea. Who planned this ambush? Styx looked toward the white, smiling mask.
Cagliostro did.
Her eyes stayed gray as she gripped Soulblight. Evelyn sighed.
All I wanted to do was take a nap.
Cagliostro took a step forward. There is no need for all of you to die. In fact, despite taking us on this little road, Salem, not even you need to die here. Only the Watcher.
What if I don't want to die? That isn't an option anymore.
Nox manifested his sword while Mortis ran forward. Evelyn quickly lunged into his path and parried his mace, pushing the armored skeleton away from the group and fighting him by herself. Similarly, Phobos launched himself at Nox and Erebus, cackling wildly with ill intent.
Well, that just leaves Argos.
Styx laughed nervously. Fear not, my queen. Of all the possible outcomes that can occur here, I think I know how to achieve the best one. Styx's eyes took upon their dual hues, and a bat-winged angel landed next to Styx. Argos scoffed. Lilith, dark saint of desire. I was hoping you were dead. Lilith smirked.
You've been playing Lilith up to this point?
Oh, that's right. No, not quite. I've been in Meliska. She started walking towards the Saint of Blades, daggers at the ready. Styx exhaled softly.
I think I know how to get the best one too, Salem. Make sure Cag doesn't try anything.
Styx grasped her scythe and walked with Lilith towards Argos. As the combat angel swung his swords with a smile that barely concealed a fiery rage, Styx blocked. As before, his aim was at her hand, but this time Styx slid her grip down the hilt a bit. Lilith circled around, attempting to stab her daggers into Argos's wings, but he quickly spun round with his offhand, blocking her with his other sword. He grinned. You two gonna give me a better fight than Kazakh and Calico, then? Salem advanced on Cagliostro for a few moments before slowing to a stop next to him and turning back to watch the fight. The listener slipped his hands into his sleeves, monk style, and chuckled. Something wrong, Saint of Madness? Salem shrugged. Let us not lie to ourselves. You have a codex on your person. You could turn the tide easily, whether I try to stop you or not, yet you stand and watch. Indeed. Whilst I do seek the death of your fledgling, I have my own plans to tend to as well. In a roundabout way, despite bringing this ambush down on her, I somewhat hope she survives. I'm trying to start a war, you see, Saint of Madness. Salem looked at him for a moment, before turning his attention to the various battles going on. His eyes widened in surprise that all battles were in their favor. Mortis was too slow to deal with Evelyn's agile, warpstone-fueled nature. Lilith's tendencies to remain behind Argos forced him to fight both her and Styx in two directions, limiting his capabilities as he could not bring both blades to bear against a single target. Phobos seemed utterly immune to Oedipus's magic, and his movements too erratic for Nox to land a satisfying blow. Salem almost felt proud as he watched them all doing their damnedest to protect Styx, and Styx herself, of course, had come quite far. You know, Salem, the stress she's suffered up to this point affects her powers. I'm sure that destroying Ignis did nothing to encourage her. The woman she thought she loved tried to kill her twice. You shoved all of this responsibility on her. How long do you think she can keep up the facade before the wall she's built weakens and falls? Salem noted the river of souls beginning to boil and realized Cagliostro was right. Tick-tock, Salem. The wall is crumbling. Another glance at Styx showed that she'd gotten more aggressive. Although she still hadn't learned much about how to use her scythe, she was expending a lot of energy to keep Argos split between herself and Lilith. At this rate, she would slip up and be killed against the Saint of Blades. You are correct that the clock is ticking, Cagliostro, but that clock is my own. The wall will not crumble. I'll make sure of it. This is goodbye, Cagliostro. He raised the maddening blade and charged at Argos. The listener frowned beneath his mask. Indeed it is, Salem. I do hope your end is swift and painless.
I don't feel the same. Yo, and destiny is a weird thing. Yeah, cause it's easier to believe. Yeah, that everything is out of your hands. It's part of a plan, so there ain't
Take a very generous swig of tea there. Salem's attack seemed almost perfectly timed as a powerful blow knocked Lilith's daggers from her hands, and Styx lost her footing. Only the timely interception of the maddening blade saved the Queen of Souls' life. Argos laughed and looked towards Salem. It's not your turn, dwarf, but if you want to die first, I'm happy to oblige. Slaru hana bratialur in tot medur vignum. Salem lurched and looked back at Cagliostro, who shrugged.
Salem, what are you doing?
The Saint of Madness quickly turned back, attempting to raise his sword to block an attack, but instead found himself lunging towards Styx, embedding the blade of madness through her side. Both their eyes widened. A second later, Argos's blades came down, slicing both of Salem's arms from his body. Argos laughed darkly, preparing for another swing, but Styx took the moment to rip Salem's blade out of his side and lunge into the path, blocking both swords. With as much strength as she could muster, she yanked her scythe sideways, the blade hooking onto the swords and shifting Argos sideways. He snarled, but was quickly distracted again by Lilith flying towards him and swinging her daggers. Styx took a step back, breathing heavily, but not due to exertion. She heard whispers in her mind, whispers that were growing louder. In the chaos, Argos slipped up and had his wing ripped in half by one of Lilith's daggers as she rolled behind him, slamming another dagger into a chink in his armor. He roared out in pain, dropping the sword and turning to cleave her head off, but the strike was blocked by both daggers. Styx fell to her knees, gripping her head as the river of souls began to bubble and boil loudly. Souls stepping onto the banks and beginning to scream out. All fights suddenly stopped as all eyes turned to Styx, or the souls stepping onto the riverbank. Something bad was about to happen. She could feel it. Lilith gasped, as she felt a tug on her soul. Dix!
Go. Go now.
Lilith flapped her wings hard and took off, gaining quick distance. Have you ever heard of the tale of the Road of Madness? They say that the workers firmly believe they have built a road, and yet every day they return to admire their handiwork, but it was gone, replaced by an ever-growing pile of material. Every day they built the road anew, and every day it was gone again. Yet those that were witnesses claimed that they were insane. There was never a road. They called each other crazy. Perhaps both parties were crazy. Oh well.
I can't remember if I heard that somewhere or made it up.
I don't know.
Seemed fitting.
I'll have to Google it later. Cagliostro laughed. Evelyn felt a tug next and pressed a hand to her chest. She felt her soul resonating. Something bad was about to happen. Styx looked up at her, tears flowing from her mismatched eyes as she held her head, as if intense pain.
Leave now, please.
I'm so sorry that I failed you, Styx. Do not forget what I taught you. Styx bent over, her head pressing against the ground, before she suddenly sat up straight again. Screaming skyward, her arms limply at her sides, Evelyn quickly began flapping her rotted wings to get away. Gasping as the soul flame seemed to ignite all along the river, purple and green fighting fiercely for dominance. The last thing Styx heard was Phobos.
One nightmare fails to guard, won't fail again.
After that, all fell black. Chapter 40. Descent into Madness. Styx walked alone down a dark road, sinister trees on either side of her. Sometimes she could see ghostly beings following her in the distance, through the thickets, but she couldn't make out who they were. Her path ended abruptly at a ledge, looking down into sheer darkness. She turned to go back the way she came, gasping as she came face to face with Zoe. The former Queen of Hell grinned darkly.
Go on, jump.
Styx choked.
What?
Zoe took a step forward.
The throne is mine, Watcher. Always has been. Always will be. Jump, or I'll throw you in myself.
Styx shook her head violently.
No. What voice do I give her internal madness?
A voice that sounds like it's going absolutely mad. Go with your first instinct. What does a crazy voice sound like?
You betrayed her, you betrayed her, you betrayed her, you betrayed her, you betrayed her.
The voice was her own. She held her head.
Shut up.
I made a mistake choosing you, and look where it has led us. You'll get us all killed.
Made a mistake, made a mistake, made a mistake. Hate you, hate you, hate you, hate you, hate you, hate you.
Styx looked up, gasping as Evelyn was standing in front of her now. The Fallen let out a sigh and turned away.
I think I told you I loved you, Lily Watcher. No, Evelyn, wait.
Evelyn began to walk away, and Styx suddenly began falling into the darkness.
Evelyn, wait! Styx, wake up!
Styx gasped as she abruptly found herself at the top of the ledge again. Salem stood in front of her. He pushed up his hat to show his face and smiled up at her. You are stronger than this, my queen. You survived Mirka, the Queen of Hell, and the Saint of Blades. All the voices in her head seemed to go silent. She felt hungry all of a sudden.
Styx, please wake up.
Evelyn's voice was sobbing now. Go. She needs you. Salem walked past and slipped off the edge himself. And my blade needs a new master. Styx gasped and opened her eyes, the purple and green color remaining. She felt a pressure to let go of her skull as Phobos stepped back slightly. As soon as she sat up, Evelyn wrapped her in a tight hug.
Gods above and below, you're okay? What happened?
Evelyn gripped Styx's shoulders and stared into her eyes.
Whatever the hell you did, please never do it again. It was like the whole area we were fighting just, I don't know, exploded?
Styx looked around. Other than a pile of ashes with an oversized wizard hat on top, there was nothing except the three of them. Styx felt empty.
I'm still not sure what happened.
Phobos raised an old skull he had found, and its jaw opened.
Deep in nightmare, barely found you. Queen winds boom, souls as fuel.
Styx tried to stand, but as she lost her balance, Evelyn and Phobos caught her. The ferry floated idly in the river, as if it had never run aground.
Styx, how are you feeling? I'm really hungry.
Evelyn managed to laugh, wiping tears from her eyes, and picked up Soul Blight.
I'll carry your scythe. I know we're supposed to go to Darkstone, but let's just go to the cabin, okay?
Styx nodded slightly. Evelyn opened the rift, but Styx pointed towards the pile of ash.
Phobos, get Salem's sword.
The metal puppet picked it up and held onto it. He wheezed without any sort of laughter as he followed them through the rift. Lights emanated from the windows of the cabin. Someone was here. The door flew open to reveal Morgan.
Hey, you guys are...
She noted Styx's condition and went silent for a moment. Evelyn walked forward, curious.
What are you doing here, Morgan?
Morgan sighed.
We brought Rias here to see Eris. She's not doing all that great right now.
Morgan stepped aside so they could all enter the cabin. Morgan closed the door and crossed her arms, looking downward.
Calico is with Eris. Perfect. Phobos put me down.
The metal puppet did so, and although unsteady on her feet, Styx made her way to the room. Calico looked up as Styx stepped into the room and leaned against the doorframe. Rias sat next to the bed, grasping Eris's hand as the little demon breathed heavily against a raging fever.
Styx? What happened? Shut up.
Styx stumbled. Oh my goodness. Celeste Altair, thank you so much for the raid. Raiders, welcome in. Welcome in, welcome in. Raiders, if this is your first time here, my name is Lord Rexworth. I'm an English nobleman VTuber. I'm joined by Zoe the Demon Fox from the Moonlighters, and we are doing ASMR of a book that she wrote called The Realm, A Tale of Blood and Souls. Just a moment while I get a shout out for Celeste. Everyone do go follow Celeste. She is a mod, much like myself with Project Estadio, and is the one of the brains behind the entire operation, and is very much the glue that holds us all together. Oh, Dawn, thank you for the hydrate. Good lord, I need it.
Especially after that speech earlier.
Oh yes. Yes, you missed a good one. I channeled my inner Viking. Yes, Viking. Yes. Fairly certain that's going to be a clippable moment, so I'll have to go back and clip that. Yeah. Let's see. Goodness gracious. Where were we? Styx stumbled over to the empty side of the bed.
Rias, I'll help your sister, but the only way to do that is to claim her soul. In exchange, I want yours too.
Rios raised an eyebrow, and Calico stood up.
What's gotten into you, Styx? What the...
Rios interrupted.
If that is the price to pay for my sister to survive, I will pay it.
Styx nodded and reached out to Eris, gently grasping her hand. The soul flame ignited, and after a few moments, Eris's breathing calmed down as her temperature dropped. Afterwards, Styx slowly stood and walked back out of the room, getting Rios turned to Calico.
Miss Alexandria, will you help me write a soul contract?
Styx walked out into the main room, glancing at Evelyn only for a moment before heading to her own room and slamming the door. The Fallen sat up slightly from her position on the couch, reaching out before laying back down again and crushing a warpstone, sighing. A few moments later, Calico came and sat at the end of the couch with a sigh.
What happened?
The corrupted angel blew heavily out of her mouth.
I've got one hell of a story for you, Alex.
Now it's 3 a.m. Indeed. If you are tired, do go and sleep, please. No need to stay up late on my account.
Sleep is good for you until we hit another Viking speech, then have fun.
Yes. Oh dang, they're contracting, yeah. No unlockable. If you're tired, go to sleep. It's good for you.
Go to sleep or I'll make you go to sleep.
Styx sat against her closed bedroom door, ear pressed against it, listening to them talk. As they spoke, she slowly slipped down to the floor and curled into a ball, trying and failing to stop herself from starting to cry again. Her stomach growled again.
Shut up, please.
I'm gonna go eat soon as well then. Was up watching Celeste and Doki, but I should eat. Yes, by all means, please. Go get some sleep, Dawn. Which, by the way, those of you who are just joining who don't know, Doki Bird's link to her re-debut stream is pinned to my chat, so feel free to keep that up in the third tab along with mine and along with the Zoe's stream. Chapter 41. Voices from the Grave. Evelyn inhaled.
So, I'm sure you already knew what was going on in Garrony. Salem and I saw you take Arias from the dock.
Calico nodded slowly, propping her head on the couch's armrest and looking towards Styx's door.
I figured out she was claiming Garronites from what was happening, but when she got to Iron Keep, she came to the keep itself first, and helped us deal with Demos. After that...
Calico sighed.
She wasn't okay even then. By the sounds of what she told me, Zoe attacked her at some point, and found out she's a new queen Salem was trying to put on the throne.
Evelyn held a warpstone tightly, but not crushing it. She seemed to be slightly shaking and laid an arm over her eyes, before clearing her throat.
No wonder she...
Evelyn shook her head slightly, pulling one knee up but remaining laying down.
On our way back to Darkstone, Cagliostro ambushed us. I'm not sure how he did it, but he took control of the ferry and ran it onto the banks of the Magma Plains.
Calico looked over at the corrupted angel.
I thought I felt some kind of disturbance, but Morgan and I decided to stay with Arias. If we could have been of help, I'm so sorry.
Evelyn shook her head slightly with a shaky smile.
No, there's nothing you could have done. Erebus, Argos, and Nox were there too.
She paused, crushing a warpstone, while Calico waited patiently.
Hi, party. Styx is a wreck, yet...
Evelyn let out a small laugh and pushed herself to a sitting position, her arm propped on the back of the couch so she could keep it over her eyes.
She was beating Argos. Except next thing we know, Cag spoke some kind of spell. It was definitely demonic, but I didn't understand the runes. After that, Salem seemed to lose control and stabbed her in the side.
Calico's eyes widened as she looked back towards Styx's door but said nothing.
River souls began to boil, Ghosts started clambering up the riverbank and screaming. It was just non-stop screaming.
A tear slid down Evelyn's cheek. Calico started to reach out, but Evelyn suddenly lowered her arm, anguish on her face, still continuing.
I could see her trying to hold back whatever was about to happen. She told us to get away from her. I started flying straight up, and next thing I knew there was this, like, explosion of fire. The entire river ignited. The field we were fighting on was consumed, and when it all cleared, it was like nothing ever happened.
She coughed and wiped her eyes.
All that remained was Styx just laying there, and a pile of ash with a hat and a sword. Salem wasn't as lucky as the rest of us.
Evelyn took a deep, shuddering breath.
Styx is catatonic, just laying there, talking to herself. She couldn't have been more out of it. I thought she was...
Evelyn paused.
You don't have to keep going.
Calico got up and walked over behind Evelyn, hugging her from behind. The corrupted angel shook her head, and after clearing her throat a few times, continued on.
Phobos pulled her back into reality. If I had lost her,
Evelyn jolted as the door to the room Edison Rios was in opened. Evelyn stood quickly and faced away to hide her tears. Calico walked over to them and patted both their heads.
Hello, Carcade Comedy. How you feeling, Eris? You feel much better thanks to Styx.
Rios held out a soul contract.
I already signed it. Please make sure Styx gets it. I'm going to take Eris back to our old home.
Calico nodded and took the contract.
Be safe, you two.
Eris smiled.
We will try. Even broken, we are still one of the best swordsmen in hell. Besides, our sister, of course.
Eris wrapped an arm around Rios, whose blank expression turned to a slight smile of its own.
Goodbye, Evelyn. Calico.
Rios bowed slightly, then took Eris's hand, and they left the cabin. And hello on my side, Car Kid. Welcome in, welcome in. A few hours later, Styx was awoken by a knock on her door, and she jolted up to a sitting position, realizing she'd still been laying against it.
What movie did you watch?
When I first saw you, I knew this. When I'm with you, I feel so useless. I feel diluted, my heart's been wounded. Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you, I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palm. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, baby you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares. See me right there.
Sorry about that, I had to deal with a thing. Where were we?
Oh, that's all right. Let me just take it from the beginning of the paragraph. A few hours later, Styx was awoken by a knock on her door, and she jolted up to a sitting position, realizing she'd still been laying against it.
Styx?
The watcher didn't answer. A few moments later, there was another knock. Styx sighed.
I'm still alive, if that's what you're checking for.
A soul contract was slid underneath the door.
Ria's signed it as you asked.
Styx nodded to herself, picking it up and pressing her back against the door, looking into the darkness of her room. As the paper ignited with green flame and her hunger seemed to lessen at the same time, she jolted violently, seeing a headless body in the light of the fire. The watcher stood up and clapped her hands once, causing the warpstone light above to turn on. Her humble bedroom was empty except for Phobos, laying in a heap on the floor next to her bed, his metal head tilted slightly.
Nothing, Phobos. Sorry.
She walked over to her bed and sat on the foot of it. head in hands.
Some queen I turned out to be.
You're not on the throne just yet. She looked up suddenly. That was Salem's voice for sure, but he was dead. I chose you, Styx. I still believe in you. Do not forget what I taught you. The Watcher hesitated before standing up with clenched fists. The voice in her head was right.
I'm the Queen of Souls. I can't give up just yet.
Chapter 42. A Change in the Tides. The last thing Nox had expected was the sudden inferno and a flash of light that enveloped the plains. He could feel his very soul trying to rip itself in two, and as his consciousness had faded, he watched everyone escape except for Salem, who had only turned to him with a smile before rapidly disintegrating to ash. As the skeletal lord regained consciousness, he found he was sitting in his usual chair back in the hidden council chambers of the Dark Saints. Across from him sat Cagliostro, feet on the table, idly reading a book. Erebus sat in Ignis's usual seat by the doors, and Mortis was a pile of bones and dented armor nearby. Nox was about to revive his loyal minion when he noticed the abject terror in Erebus's eyes.
Listener, what the hell was that?
I suppose the best way to explain it would be to call it a soul bomb. I did warn Salem she was going to snap. He shouldn't have struck her with his insanity sword. Cagliostro suppressed a chuckle. Nox glared at him hollowly.
I seem to recall you speaking to Salem before that fateful moment.
The listener shrugged. If you're implying I try to get you all killed, fear not. He sat up, his ever-smiling mask seeming happier than usual. If I wanted you dead, I could do it easily, just like I did to Ignis. He flattened his book on the table and went back to reading. Nox said nothing else, standing and facing Mortis's remains, necrotic energy dancing from Nox's fingers and slowly reconstructing his enforcer. Erebus shakily stood up, hands clasped to her chest.
Have a good sleep, car kid. Whether you do or do not have work on this mysterious car that you may or may not own. What happened to Arcos? Did the explosion kill him too?
Cagliostro looked at her for a moment before answering. No, the only casualty was Salem, unfortunately. Someone else opened a rift to rescue Argos. I'm almost certain the rift returned him safely to heaven. Mortis's bones creaked as he finally revived. He silently grabbed his mace and went to stand guard at the door as usual. Nox sat back down heavily.
We failed to kill the upstart, as you called her. What plan will you try next?
The listener chuckled. Why are you asking me when your beloved schemer is right here? Erebus took a deep breath, still shaking, and stood up.
I'll have to give it some thought.
She bowed.
Lord Nox, listener.
With that, she turned and quickly left the room. The walk back to her home was the most terrifying experience Erebus had ever had to deal with. Every moment she waited for Cagliostro to cast the same magic on her that had turned Ignis to ash. Eventually, though, navigating the slums of the city's Shard district, she managed to make it home to a simple hovel, nestled deep and far from the hidden chamber. She threw off her cloak and fell to her knees for a moment, letting the door slam behind her. After a few moments, she stood again and hugged herself, wandering into a back room of the tiny hovel. Within one of the only rooms was a cot in the corner. The rest of the room was covered floor to ceiling in crumpled papers and unfurled scrolls, plans both failed and in the making. She reached for one scroll and held it tightly for a moment. The words upon it glowed and she dropped it onto the floor. The paper seemed to turn into a shadowy silhouette before morphing and regaining an appearance into that of a hellhound puppy. It yapped happily. An illusion, yes, but it was the only thing the Saint of Deception could truly call a friend. She crouched down as it leaped into her arms.
Hello, Ajax.
She smiled softly before putting it back on the ground and looking around a bit, ripping another paper off the walls.
You were always right, Salem. Right about everything. I should have listened to you from the beginning.
She walked over to her cot and reached underneath it, pulling out a thin-bladed sword.
Hello, Deceit. It's been too long. I'm not too sure if I even remember how to swing you.
She stood back up, smiling as the illusionary hellhound came and sat by her foot. The smile quickly turned to a frown. A purple aura surrounded the schemer, altering her appearance. Her flesh, from its deathly grey to the fair complexion of the average human, her two-toned hair changed to a fairly light blonde, and her horns changed, becoming pure white and growing sideways and outward. After her transformation into a human form was complete, she changed her clothes into a simple black dress and picked up the blanket from her cot, a tattered cloak meshed with a scarf. Her look complete, she sighed.
I'm sorry, Nox. You'll have to deal with the listener on your own. I won't be a casualty in his plans.
A purple orb manifested in her offhand, and she threw it at the wall, where it quickly burst into flames. As the flames consumed all Erebus had ever known, she opened a rift and silently stepped through it with Ajax. Zoe sat atop the highest tower of Darkstone on its roof, surveying the city. From this perch, she could see all the regions of Hell, from the peaceful Blight Glades, the invasive and monster-ridden Eternal Forest, the Sapphire Ocean, the high-populated region of Hell's Gate, sharing its name with the capital, the fissure-filled magma plains, the enigmatic Outer Circle, and encircling it all, the Stormlands. MattCan322, thank you so much for the follow. Zoe looked down, watching a large group of demons leaving across the drawbridge that connected the floating island Darkstone was built onto the city of Hell's Gate. Having supporters at all had been a surprise to her, but once her letters had gone out, she attracted far more than just old supporters. Her idea to willingly hand over the kingdom had gone over quite well, and preparations were underway. Now, all she had to do was confront Styx and tell her the plan.
Do not think you'll have my throne so easily.
Zoe slipped her amulet from her pocket and held it tightly. She let out a small laugh.
I'm brave enough to attack heaven itself, but I can barely bring myself to go see her. Man.
She sighed and stood up, slipping her hands into her cloak and looking towards the outer circle.
I'll wait for you, Styx. I'll make it all go as smoothly as possible for you.
She looked up slightly to the Stormlands.
After that, there's no place for me here anymore. I always did wonder what was beyond the Stormlands.
Best Brit, welcome in. And then entered King Dave, the legendary monarch of the land of cheese. A cursory glance over the city showed smoke rising from the Shard district and the River of Souls flowing oddly around the magma plains, but she ignored it. There was still so much work to do, and old friends to bring out of hiding. She teleported back inside Darkstone, yet if she had stayed a few moments more, she would have seen Cagliostro slip out of a rift to investigate. Chapter 43. An Awakening. Almost immediately after Erebus had left the council chamber, Cagliostro had stood up and opened a rift.
Where are you going?
The listener chuckled. No need to get off your bony bottom, Nox. I'll only be a few minutes. Nox nodded and Cagliostro stepped through, better Nox not know that the listener believed the soul bomb had made acquiring the essence of Apocalypse easier. Chapter 43, King Dave hits the big time gone wrong. Beneath the brackish waters of the River of Souls, a blue warpstone was beaten back and forth, dislodged from its hiding place by frightened souls. It floated down the river, trapped in the torrential current around where Styx had inadvertently exploded. The theory had been true all along that Styx's power was heavily amplified by the Apocalypse, yet the river had siphoned only small amounts all this time. After the soul bomb, the river had attempted to siphon a far larger amount of power, an unintended side effect of Styx's newly born desire to feed on souls. The Apocalypse had had enough. The demonic essence within the crystal multiplied violently as cracks began to crawl up the crystal. With a muffled screech, the warpstone shattered into a million tiny fragments that quickly began to reform. At the center of the reforming crystal, a green pulse spread the fragments out again before they stubbornly attempted to reconstitute. A purple pulse spread the fragments once again, and a small flame ignited beneath the water. As the fragments began to reform more quickly, the flame split into 3, green, purple, and red, before closing back in and fighting for dominance. It almost appeared as if the flames were inside each other, red at the core, followed by purple, then the green flame encompassing all. With immense force, crystal fragments sealed and formed around the tricolored flame, and an artificial soul was born. Flesh and bone began to manifest from the ether, forming a body around the crystalline core. As arms and legs formed, the entity began to walk along the bottom of the river, slowly ascending the bank and stepping into the magma plains. What had finally emerged seemed human at first, flesh still constituting itself over bone, but quickly 2 horns grew out from the flowing red hair. A halo manifested, cracked and impaled on one of the horns. 2 beautiful white wings unfurled before just as quickly retreating back beneath flesh, as if they had never existed. A simple shirt and pants manifested as if from the craggy dirt along with sandals. A hybrid of a trench coat and a cloak completed the look, and the irises of the eyes flickered between red, green, and purple before settling on a lifeless gray. With an utter lack of emotion, the woman began walking, ignoring the masked man that had been watching her the entire time. He stepped in front of her, and she could feel his gaze beneath the mask, looking her up and down. Exquisite. Truly marvelous. Do you know what you are, my dear?
Oh boy, what voice give Morgan? I like Irish accents, let's go with that. Sweet words won't do you any favors, Cagliostro the listener.
The robed demon seemed to recoil slightly, although the woman's expression held no emotion.
What do you want from me?
Well, I'd come to retrieve you from the river, as you are the essence of Apocalypse, but...
Morgan.
Cagliostro went silent, tilting his head to the side slightly.
I completely forgot that her name was Morgan, and that kind of fits with like a Scottish-Irish type accent.
Perfect.
I'm no longer a simple crystal, Cagliostro the listener. I want a name, so I've chosen a name.
Cagliostro nodded slightly. Of course. He began to make interesting comparisons on Morrigan's body. Her hair was straighter, but the same red shade as Evelyn. The lifeless grey eyes matched that of Styx. The cracked halo looked exactly like Calico's. The clothing seemed to be a mishmash between Zoe and Styx. But the horns he could not place.
I'd appreciate to get on with it and cease your staring at my form, listener.
Cagliostro started to speak but was interrupted.
I am curious, listener. This form of yours, is it truly yours? It seems Empty.
They were both silent for a moment before Cagliostro chuckled. Ah, so, I suppose you want to see my demon form, then? How about a deal? If I sate your curiosity, may we discuss plans for helping each other? Morrigan nodded her head once. There was silence again for a few moments. Then Cagliostro grabbed his mask and took off his hood. With both removed, there truly was nothing beneath but shadows. The mask crumbled in his hands, and rusty spikes grew upward from the collar of his cloak. The bottom of the cloak frayed and ripped violently until it was tatters swaying in the wind. The sleeves underwent a similar transformation, and Cagliostro's gloved hands vanished. Armored pauldrons seemed to manifest onto his shoulders, and a blazing fire lit itself within the depths of the cloak, acting as a sort of head. Cagliostro's legs seemed to disappear, and he floated above the ground slightly. 3 black books rose out of the flames and idly orbited around him. Morrigan showed her first bit of emotion with a smirk.
Ah, the Dark Codex, the Chronodex, and the Lusty Accent. The Dark Codex, the Chronodex, and the Astral Codex. You're missing some of your books, listener.
Cagliostro's voice had changed, sounding as if he was speaking 3 times over with a slight echo. They were stolen from me by my cousin. A cracked mask rose out of the flames as the book sank back within. As quickly as he had transformed, Cagliostro shifted back to his humanoid form. Now Zoe's voice changed. Now then, if you'd be so kind as to come with me. Morrigan took on a smug smile.
I must apologize, but there is nothing to bind or deal. Therefore, I see no reason to assist you. Besides, as I will remind you, I am no longer a simple crystal, and my will is my own. Thank you for satisfying my curiosity, though.
Morrigan was consumed
it.
suddenly by green and purple flame, a teleportation ability. Cagliostro let out a soft sigh. Back to square one, I suppose. Oh well. He began laughing. Oh well, indeed. If she goes where I expect her to, then my backup plan will see me through. Cagliostro opened a rift and walked through. I do hope she enjoys the frozen wasteland in the north.
Thank you, Squishy, for gifting Card Kid Comedy a drink. Nailed it. Man, I have my follower phrase committed to memory, but I still can't fucking think of a subscription one.
Now what's the one for following?
Thank you for the follow, whatever name. Welcome to Club Pact. Enjoy the chaos and bloodshed that ensues.
Okay, and so when they subscribe, they're buying a drink.
Yeah, I do run a nightclub after all.
Makes sense. Makes sense, I like it. Let's see, Chapter 44. Beginning of the End. Morrigan manifested inside a frozen cave and almost immediately began shivering. She hugged herself as a coat ignited with red flames. When they cleared, the coat was larger, with a fur mantle around her neck. The flames had also transformed her sandals into boots. Yet she was still cold.
I do not like this place.
She couldn't explain why she'd brought herself here, but a phrase had been repeating in her mind over and over, and she felt that there was someone here she needed to speak to. Oi! Who are you? How are you getting these damn tunnels? Morrigan looked up at 2 huge warriors, Gedonites. She could sense that their souls weren't their own. She smiled.
Thank you for the stretch and hydrate, Cassie. And the... I really need to figure out how to turn off those notification sounds. Have either of you touched the river of death?
I hear that line and I keep thinking of the first Batman movie. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Petra paced in circles round the throne room while Isaac and Callista sat at the bottom of the throne steps, watching him. Isaac cleared his throat. My lord, perhaps Argos is dead. Petra shook his head, gripping his chin. Nay, I refuse to believe the Saint of Blades has perished. There's not a being alive that could slay him. He stopped suddenly. Unless he has decided to betray me. Petra laughed suddenly. For his sake, that better not be the case. I would hate to have to cleave his head from its neck
Oh boy.
and hang it from a high place.
I can see it ahead. I hope your
Isaac
voice
and-
is ready.
Oh. Isaac and Callista shared a look. The older angel shook his head slightly and Callista sighed, gripping a crystalline sword hilt. Leave me, both of you. Callista stood up.
My lord, isn't the point of a king's guard to...
Leave or be flayed where you stand, Saint of Decay!
I love it.
Both angels bowed. My lord.
My lord.
They walked briskly out of the throne room, but as soon as they were out of earshot, the guards that stood outside the doors, Callista pulled Isaac behind a pillar in the antechamber.
We were the only ones in the room. I could have killed him, Isaac.
She unsheathed her crystal sword.
You killed Car Kid again.
Sorry, Car Kid.
I gave you warning, Car Kid. I said it's coming up. It's right there. Here it comes. Do you understand how painful it is to forge a sword from your own warp rot affliction? I didn't forge it for the hell of it. I forged it to kill that prick.
Isaac sighed and patted her shoulder. I know, Callista, but if we act too soon, what about the rest of heaven?
Screw heaven. I just want to see Morgan again.
Isaac grabbed both her shoulders. We both know you don't mean that. Listen, Callista. I know you've been kept out of the loop lately, and I apologize, but after the Hell Queen's attack, we have been quite busy. Isaac took a deep breath. The new rebellion is about to boil over. Letta's death, Argus's disappearance. Suspicious eyes are staring ever more at Petra. The Hell Queen's attack was a turning point. We have to prepare for Petra's death, otherwise our realm will fall into anarchy. Isaac started walking out into the city, Callista following him. Kazakh and Selonia are trying to mitigate what damage will come. They managed to enlist Irina to aid them. We're the only High Saints left. And we are all against the tyrant, but the loyalists are still numerous. Isaac stopped suddenly and turned to face the undead angel. A war is coming, Callista. The mistakes and machinations of the tyrant and the listener have brought us to this point. Petra will die, but please, wait until the time is right. I will personally see to it that in the end, you get to see Morgan again. Callista looked at the ground for a moment, before looking up and nodding.
Fine.
Styx had stayed locked in her room for several days, only opening the door to pick up plates of food that Evelyn had brought her. The Fallen was a surprisingly good cook. At the end of the week, however, Evelyn didn't bring anything, to the point that Styx finally relented and opened her door. Glancing into the main room, she saw Evelyn passed out on the couch and surrounded by warpstone fragments. The Watcher sighed and smiled softly.
What am I gonna do with you, Ev?
Ever the addict. It's no wonder Lord Knox never trusted her with complex assignments. Styx whirled around.
Salem?
Her room was as empty as ever, except there was an upright shadow in the corner. A chill ran down her spine and she rubbed her mismatched eyes before looking again. It was gone. She heard metal joints creaking as she walked out into the main room, seeing through a window that Phobos was outside. Her stomach growled as she held her belly with both hands.
Damn it. Now.
I'm terribly sorry this has happened to you, my queen. Phobos is sworn to protect you. He will find sustenance for you, something more nourishing than normal food. Styx gasped as the shadow had reappeared, almost forming a silhouette of a person now. It slowly walked towards her as she backed away from it.
Salem, you're dead.
The shadow moved faster towards her, its voice growing distorted. I should have predicted the listener would try something, but
I didn't. I failed you.
I didn't. I failed you. Styx screamed as the shadow rushed at her. She turned and ran, tripping over her table and falling over it onto the couch into Evelyn's lap, jolting the fallen awake.
Whoa, hey.
Almost unconsciously, Evelyn wrapped her arms protectively around Styx, sitting up slightly and brandishing her spear at the room. When Evelyn realized no one was there, she dropped Pox onto the floor and pulled Styx closer, gently stroking her back. Styx buried her face into Evelyn's shoulder, shaking in terror.
What happened? I can't do this, Ev. I'm losing my fucking mind.
Evelyn continued to rub her back comfortingly.
You're not alone, okay, Styx? How am I supposed to rule a kingdom like this, Ev?
Styx pulled away, desperation filling her mismatched eyes as she stared into Evelyn's yellow ones.
We should find someone else. Someone...
Evelyn gripped Styx's shoulders tightly.
Salem chose you for a reason, Styx, and I support this choice. I still do. You're the most intelligent and beautiful person I know. After all, even if After all, even I can see why you're the best choice.
Styx hesitated for a moment.
You... God damn it, Cass, you don't make me laugh while I'm trying to read. She said, Salem chose you for a reason. He chose you because you betray your girlfriend because you can't communicate what you were saying. You think I'm beautiful?
Evelyn blushed a bit, but smiled.
Of course I do. I love you, remember?
Evelyn hesitated for a moment before gently moving Styx over and causing her to lay down on the couch. Evelyn above her, arms on either side of the Watcher's head.
Your eyes are really pretty too. The purple and green suits you.
Styx looked away, breathing heavily.
Thank you. For what? For being my friend. Fuck, I can't hold it together. Look what you've done, Cassie.
Naughty, naughty, Cassie.
Thank you. For what? For being my friend. For being there for me through everything.
Styx couldn't hide the fear in her eyes, but Evelyn noted what she was afraid of seemed to be something else now. Styx spoke quieter.
Everyone, if it means anything, I know I haven't reciprocated your feelings, but I think you're beautiful too.
Evelyn fought an internal battle with herself before leaning down suddenly and kissing Styx on the lips. Evelyn sat up again and started to pull her shirt off, but suddenly stopped and glanced down. Styx still seemed afraid. Evelyn began putting her shirt back on, laughing nervously.
I got a little carried away.
She gasped softly as Styx grabbed her arm.
Evelyn, I think I want to. You do?
Styx nodded her head slightly as the Fallen slowly began taking her shirt back off. She hesitated again, feeling Styx begin to shiver.
Are you cold?
The Watcher's lip trembled a bit as she nodded. She reached up, wrapping her arms around Evelyn, and pulled her close.
I want you to warm me up.
I'd like to remind you ASMR is meant to be quiet, peaceful. I don't think Shattered Eardrum is meant to be a part of it.
Well, that's where the fun begins, because everyone's all nice and close, and you start yelling out a Viking speech. It's like, oh shit, what the fuck's going on?
Exactly. There's such a thing as Viking speech ASMR.
Did you wake up for your medication?
Evelyn smiled softly.
You can tell me to stop at any time, and I will, okay?
Evelyn kissed Styx again, before slowly slipping Styx's arms out of her coat.
Oh boy, Codex Knowledge, I haven't seen one of these in a while.
Oh, thank God. I need a break.
Codex of Knowledge, Altheria. One of the outer kingdoms beyond the Sea of Mist, Altheria began as a peace deal between the outer kingdoms of... Altheria began as a peace deal between the outer kingdoms of Escaranton and Karak. The expedition sent deep into unexplored lands eventually came upon an abandoned keep. Its structures intact, but its people I could read all the way up to this point, what the fuck? The expedition sent deep into unexplored lands eventually came upon an abandoned keep. Its structures intact, but its people inexplicably missing. The city was settled and became a prosperous trade hub. When the ancient war affected the world, Altheria ceased all contact with outsiders. A new expedition was sent to find out what had happened to Altheria, and returned with disturbing news. Altheria had declared itself as a new kingdom, kneeling to no one. The brackish lake that served as the keep's water source was black and vile-looking, and the land itself had seemingly become corrupted. The outland kingdoms reluctantly recognized Altheria as its own territory, and trade began anew. Every now and then, a scheming lord or angry king would attempt to lay siege to Altheria, and all attempts at violence would fail inexplicably. Altheria seemed impenetrable. Soon after the last attempt at a siege, Altheria's traits began to change in favor of more exotic tastes. Blessed artifacts of silver and obsidian, memories of grief and nostalgia, magical tomes of dark magic that would put Sylvan to shame. The list went on and on. While Altheria has remained neutral, never seeking vengeance for the failed attacks on its kingdom, scholars have begun to find connections between the corrupted kingdom and artifacts it trades. These scholars always go missing soon after their research reaches a head. Their disappearance is attributed to Altherian assassins.
Chapter 45. New Expediences. The mountainside fortress of the Gedonites, known as Frosthold, existed deep in the frozen wastes, far from even the most wild of clans. It raised questions in Morrigan's mind on why Frosthold existed in the first place. After her encounter with the guards in the cave system, she discovered she could not claim souls that were already claimed. However, there were a mixture of claimed and unclaimed warriors here. Obeying the whims of an inexplicable urge, Morrigan had slowly but surely slaughtered or claimed every living being within Frosthold, from the lowliest guard to the immortal king himself. She had been surprised to find Olaf the Ever-King so far out here, but in the end, she was happy to have laid claim to him. At the end of it all, she'd learned about Styx's upstart rule and how the Gedonites abandoned the true queen. Now she stood in the fort's war room with Olaf and a few of his generals, looking over a map with a few wooden blocks to represent locations of interest.
There's a surprisingly large amount of minor clans out here in the wastes, huh?
Modigan crossed her arms and looked up at Olaf.
If you're willing to lose a few men here and there, we can take them over.
Modigan offered a small smile as she let the soul flame ignite in her hand. Olaf chuckled. Ha! Gedonites live and die by the axe. They'll willingly give their lives for the cause. We must show the upstart Queen of Souls that she's only that. An upstart, right?
Right.
Modigan pointed at Iron Keep on the map.
This Koss guy you told me about. He's got the main clans under his thumb, right?
At the nodding of a few of the generals, she continued.
There's no way to avoid a battle, but if we claim enough clans, it should go easy enough. Maybe we can gain Queen's attention, she'll come to aid us.
Olaf stroked his beard. Aye, the Blooded One can never resist a good slaughter. It'll be a couple of days before we're ready to attack the nearest clan. A grin spread across his face. Till then, I think a feast is in order, wouldn't you say? Modigan blushed slightly.
I'm a crystal, Olaf. I don't need to eat.
At least she didn't think she did. Olaf walked round the war table and wrapped an arm around her shoulder, chuckling. Nonsense. You're a loyal servant of the Blooded One. Least we can do is treat you to some of the Frosthold's hospitality. Come along.
Do you want me to read this so you can rest your voice some more?
No, I've got it. I've got it. We can make it. We're almost to the end of the chapter. Sensory overload. She knew the term, but only now did she realize the meaning. The feasting hall was so loud. Food was flung. Occasionally she'd see random raiders come close to killing themselves, only regenerating due to the amount of blood spilled. Everyone was drinking. Modigan put her head in her hands and took a few deep breaths, then sat up and hesitantly grabbed the meat off her plate. It was cold. Everything was cold in this damn place. She looked round. No one was watching her. The humanized crystal raised her left hand to just below the meat and ignited her hand. Exclusively, red flame heating up the meat of the green and purple danced at the bottom, unable to grow into an inferno large enough to consume the red. She felt a hearty clap on her shoulder and startled violently, the meat falling back onto her plate and the flame snuffing itself out. She looked behind her and sighed in relief that it was just a drunken Gedonite bracing himself. Modigan took a moment, then hesitantly picked up the meat again and bit into it. It was then that she discovered hunger. She ate ravenously, reaching for more, even downing mead in record time. Eventually, those around her began to grow silent. After a while, Modigan looked up to see the entire feasting hall staring at her. Her soul core beat rapidly as she blushed in embarrassment. Olaf stood up from his throne at the front of the feasting hall and raised his mead mug high, sloshing some of its content around. The Blooded One has truly blessed us with this one. She is as ravenous as a dark god. A toast to Modigan, the Hell Queen's loyal servant. As the Gedonites began to cheer, hundreds of voices echoing around the hall, Modigan's face reddened, and she gripped her knees tightly, not fully understanding the emotion she was feeling, but it made her smile a little anyway. Gedonites were interesting. Having a body was truly an interesting experience. And I think at that point we're about 3/4 of the way through the book. Before my voice gives out, I think we'd better stop here.
Yeah.
Plus, I am completely out of hydration.
Oh no. The tea wasn't strong enough.
Oh no, I finished the tea quite a while back. I've also got a Coke and a Dr. Pepper, which is probably not the best choice, but hey, there it is.
Well, I have a big 2-liter of Sprite.
That's good. Right, so we'll pick this up next week. Shall we find somebody to raid?
I'm gonna keep going.
Oh, you're gonna... Okay. Then I'm going to raid everybody over into you, and we'll just leave it at that for the night.
I don't bounce off the walls, car kid. Don't worry,
I'm
the
honestly
alcohol will put me to sleep.
surprised that we're honestly surprised with this many chapters so far. Yeah, these are fairly short chapters, usually like a page or a couple of pages. So we go through chapters fairly quickly.
Yeah,
But,
the next
still-
book will probably be the same.
Yeah,
It's just my writing
No, that's
style, short
alright.
chapters, the color-coded dialogue.
yeah. All right, raid has been created. As is customary, we'll put in our copy pasta here so you'll know who's who. Right. So that's the end of me for the tonight. Zoe, thank you so much for this. We'll pick this up next week. Whack.
I look forward to
And
it.
yes, absolutely. Let me stop the recording here. All right. All right, everybody. We'll raid into Zoe's channel, and I will see everybody Saturday for Day of the Races with Genevieve. So, I am Lord Rexworth with a very tired voice, wishing you all the best, and God bless.
Hi, Goose. Welcome in. And thank yous for the raid.
Of course, of course.
I'm just vibing to my music at this point.
What sort of music have you had going on your stream, by the way?
I just listen to Netflix because I don't know what else I can listen to without getting like the mutes on the Twitch.
Oh, right. Yeah, I've had some classical music from the YouTube audio library going. Actually, I think the bulk of tonight has been taken up by Joseph Suk's Serenade Opus 6 and Mozart's Symphony 38 in D minor. Anyways, I will go ahead and dash off and leave you to it.
Alrighty.
And but yes, thank you for this, Zoe. And
Of course.
I'll be sure to send you audio later.
Okie dokie.
All right, take care. Good night.
Bye.
Life is so expensive, do everything excessive. I think my brain's defective. Yeah. Can't think when she's aggressive. Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna go play a puzzle game.
You think I'd learn my lesson?
You're all pagans once you touch my chat, because I'm a demon.
These girls don't even know me. Like Drake, I'm getting trophies. You want it, girl, then show me. Yeah. And we ain't getting no sleep. These girls don't even know me. Like Drake, I'm getting
Alright, let's see.
trophies.
Mental reminder that I'll forget, like, immediately. We're on chapter 46.
She's sitting up in the front of the class, using that ass. She gonna pass, keeping her pad in her pen in her lap. She been so bad with the
Out already?
now she just want the
No fucking way.
I'll give her lessons that she never had, like taking a freshman and teaching her math. I'll keep her guessing until she a grad. She always leaves them.
Thank you, Cassidy.
They don't know what's next, man. Learned it from the best, man. She loving every lesson.
There is no way that's out already.
Points for attendance. She asks a lot of questions. I answer with my presence. I sit back.
I haven't the 8th yet.
Said she wants to
Hold on. If I hit play, what happens?
know what happened next, man. You know